Welcome, everybody. This is SharePoint Dev Weekly, episode 38. So we are 14 episodes from a 1 full year, kind of, or something like that. It is today, Friday, 3rd of May, because next week is build, and we didn't want to cover, or because I'm flying the build, we were unable to schedule timings in a suitable way for Waldek and our visitors or potential visitors. So I think it's easier this way. And we got an ad hoc visitor. Actually, we were in a meeting together with Mikael and a few other people right before this meeting. And then it's like, well, hey,
no, it was all carefully planned.
Exactly.
Dude, don't show your cards.
Yes. And all of this is so carefully scripted, right?
We had Mikael planned already from from October the 10th.
True.
Yeah, I just felt like the meeting could just go on. So
yeah, yes.
It's
now,
Friday.
It is Friday. Yes. So we'll see where we get with this one. Anyway, so Mikael, you've been on the show before, but can you do a quick intro? Who are you? And well, let's talk about your future after your current intro. If you do the intro, where are you currently based?
Yeah, so my name is Mikael Svenson, and these are my titles. I'm CTO of Puzzlepart, partner, and
Why the arrow? Why
yeah.
the arrow?
Yeah,
there's an arrow on there.
Yeah, because it sits on this side of my desk, so it points to my desk, right?
Points to whoever sits in this chair is.
Yeah. And I'm a consultant, Office 365 SharePoint, based in Oslo, Norway.
Cool. And you've been doing SharePoint for quite a long time, right?
Been doing SharePoint for a long time, been MVP since 2011, but that's coming to an end.
Yes, you're losing your MVP status.
Yes, I am.
Oh my God!
The health was all right.
So what's happening?
What's happening? Yes, indeed.
I will join the mothership.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes. And so,
Mikael has been leaking too many technical snippets in his blog post, so we decided to recruit him rather than so we can actually control what he's right.
Right.
So your last post will be on what day?
I mean, I'll blog as long as I have something to write about, and I can. Well, maybe I'll work on stuff which I can't blog about. Yeah.
Exactly.
But for those who know me from way back, they know I've been doing a lot of search previously, and now I'll be joining the old fast office in Oslo. So not Microsoft Norway, which is a sales office, but engineering.
Yes.
And I'll work on the search result page.
Which is actually kind of cool. So I don't know how many of the people who are watching this know, but Mikael is the person who created the first version of the search web part, which is using as the SPFX search web part in the BMP repo, right?
Kinds of gives us the idea of what's going to be available in product.
but it's an interesting position. It actually was Frank Corner who created the web part, but I contributed. But the fun part, but I'm reviewing all the code, so I'll be sitting on the PMP side doing the open source search web part, and I'll be sitting on the engineering side on the other side with the out of the box stuff. So maybe we can align some stuff, which would be great.
Correct. Let me actually open that one up for people who are not aware. I'm just getting that one queued up on the window when we go to the article. So, but yeah, so you're gonna join on 1st of June.
1st of June. Yeah. So I should have waited until July 2nd so I could be re-awarded MVP one more time before I moved. But
that's a good point.
Yeah,
that is.
But it is. But I actually have no clue exactly what I'll be doing. No one's been able to tell me exactly what the job will be. But I guess I'll figure it out. And I figure I have nothing to lose. Maybe I can make an impact. I'm not taking the risk. Microsoft is taking the risk here.
That sounds actually scary. I need to talk with Catherine on this one. So I'll be back in a second. No, I'll just call her. Catherine is your upcoming boss, right? Or your manager.
Nice.
So we go way back with Catherine as well. Which is a good thing. And now. But you're starting on 1st of June, and then you will be working on the search UI experience, right?
Yes.
And the extensibility of search.
My title will be Principal Program Manager for Office 365 Search Extensibility.
No.
So it will be program manager, not product manager.
No, experiences and extensibility. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, I think the ending part will be anyway something which is not officially on your title. So you'll be a principal program manager in the Microsoft Search engineering team, responsible for extensibility, which actually gives us a nice, let's say, leads potentially that there might be a SharePoint framework story in the Microsoft Search maybe in the future. Who knows? We can't.
Well, I mean, the other area that Mikael was active is Power Apps. So it's either one or another.
Awesome Power Apps.
Waldek, let's not go there. Let's not go there. This is getting recorded, so let's not go there. So
some say there is developer experience in Power Apps.
Yeah. Well, there is, right? It depends on what do you define as a developer, right? If you come from an enterprise developer perspective, maybe at this moment yet, and the Power Apps doesn't have that kind of a packaging and deployment and ALM story. But hey, maybe.
Well, I guess if the definition of developer is someone who's like pulls his hair and swears a lot in the office, then you're an enterprise Power App developer.
Yeah. That makes me then more a PowerPoint guy, right? Yeah. So. Anyway. It is a upcoming build week. Obviously, for me, this week has been pretty hectic related on getting the build stuff ready I do have a session. We do have 3 booths for SharePoint related topics. One is SPFX, and then our OneDrive SharePoint Microsoft Graph section is having them both. And then there's a third one, which is Fabric, probably. The Fabric is having them both in the expo area in the build. And so then setting up demos and tenants and all of that stuff is always quite time consuming, so to say.
So by the time this episode is released, your session has already been done or not?
I think it's actually, so I have a session at 10 a.m. in a Tuesday morning. Originally it was Monday afternoon, but apparently it was rescheduled. Luckily I checked because it's pretty awkward to show up on somewhere and be like, hey, so where's my session? But so it's on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. So this one, my session will not have done. We'll probably will release this on Monday, late Monday on PST. So Tuesday. Okay. European time, or Tuesday afternoon in APAC. So
if it's already been done, then I would ask you like how did it go?
I do have the slides here. Do you want to see? No. And I think so. Obviously, we have an SBC SharePoint conference coming up 2 weeks after that. So I'll be in Build, flying home for a week, and then flying Las Vegas for the SharePoint conference. But in the SharePoint conference. And then ECS, yeah, that's true. It's going to be interesting in May. But SB SharePoint conference is really the main conference for SharePoint-related topics to make announcements. So the SharePoint topic, SharePoint session next week will not be really around massive announcements. We will actually show something cool, something new and cool stuff as well related on SharePoint framework development, but more on that one next week. I think there will be more, let's say, more development-oriented, super exciting announcements coming on Monday from other areas of kind of related areas of SharePoint, because sure, Azure and Microsoft Graph and all of that stuff, we do take advantage of those in SharePoint development as well, but it's not directly SharePoint development. Well, kind of. Yes. No. Yes.
Yes.
And for those coming to SharePoint conference, you will bring some Parker stickers, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yes, we ordered Parker stickers are getting manufacturers right now. I was unable to get them on time for build because I felt on the scheduling, so that's on me. But we will have plenty of Parker stickers available in the SBC and ECS. So
as long as I get one, I'm happy because I'm going to Vegas.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Oh, I wasn't aware. Of course, you're in Vegas. You have a session in Vegas, right?
Yep.
What are you actually talking on that one? What are you talking in Vegas?
Group and teams, governance, IT Pro, PowerShell.
How did that happen?
I do everything, right?
He had to choose one talk that he will never be able to do again.
That's fair. Yeah. That is fair.
Which one do I want to exit with?
You got to love yourself some good PowerShell, right?
That's true.
It doesn't work on Mac.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So what would be the replacement for the PowerShell? So what would you recommend?
Some say.
So Waldek, do you have certificate login support in the CLI?
Of course.
Yeah.
For a long time already.
Yeah, there you go.
You're not paying attention to releases.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting too old.
A Windows user, right?
Yeah, I'm a Windows user using Azure. Azure supports Windows.
Well, and plenty other things. I mean, so the funny thing is that the CLI of Azure that's built in Python, and it works just everywhere.
Yeah, which is a good thing. And I think we as a Microsoft, we're heading more and more to the direction where, well, of course, .NET Core and everything you can execute that in anywhere, so everything should be cross-platform. And I think it's every now and then, especially on this SharePoint Dev Weekly discussions, I at least personally think back on where I came and started Microsoft in 2006, which is insanely horrifying, by the way. But at the time, nobody would have believed what are we doing right now with open source and being the #1 contributor in the open source communities, contributing on Linux and promoting iPhone experiences and all of that stuff. It's just mind-blowing how everything has been changed.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen, and it's a good change. I think at least personally, and obviously there's multiple opinions on this one, but at least for me, the main thing about this change in Microsoft is the mentality, how we position ourselves, which is basically you choose. We want to help you, but if you don't find us to be helpful, fine, that's fine as well. If you find something better, that's fine as well. But it's your choice. We're not forcing you to do anything. And
also I guess another change or a variant of that is that in the past, if you wanted to do things with Microsoft, you had to do it the Microsoft way. Whereas now, you can use the Microsoft tag anywhere you want. If you are on iPhone, there are apps. If you are on Android, there are apps. If you are on Linux, there are CLIs, there are tools, there are experiences to touch the micro or to work with the Microsoft tag. Right? There is no Microsoft way from that point of view. Like no matter where you are, you can use Microsoft products, and that is perfect.
And many times, at least with Office products, I think some features are actually being released in preview on OS X before any other platform. All right, it's not Windows first.
Yep. Yeah.
Embracing the diversity of the IT
ecosystem,
ecosystem, which is a great thing because it's a decision for our management, obviously, to broaden our horizons as well. So it does make sense, and obviously everybody knows that we were suffering at some point because the open source was going so fast. But let's rather embrace that than competing against that, and that's been really the big thing.
Yeah, but I guess also for things like imagine you're building a mobile app, right? And from the product point of view, you want to make impact. And you can really try to force it like, we need to ship for Windows Phone first, but the audience isn't there. Majority of the market is not on Windows Phone. And sure, you can still think to do the Windows Phone first, but on the other hand, you have limited resources. You can only do one thing first. So which one will you do? Probably the one with the most impact, which is not on Windows Phone, right? And you can try to swim against the current, or you can just embrace it and say, you know what, we're going to do this one first, and then in the end, we will strive for parity across them.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, I've been working on the mobile app, but I'm using Xamarin, and then I talk using SharePoint, and then iOS, Android, and Windows built through App Center. It works it's so easy just building and deploying.
Yeah. And a good kind of a example of the change is also the Chromium Edge, which by the way, it's just fabulous. I've been using now that as my primary browser. I was a Google Chrome user. Why? Because profiles. I needed to have a way of having 25 different tenants or whatever I'm actually playing with. And with Edge, you were unable to do that. There was no options of actually signing in on every single time. But now with Chromium Edge, this is brilliant. It's fast, it's fluent, it's
the Microsoft branded Chrome.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, yes, that's what it is. But hey, let's rather embrace the things what work and make it even better, if possible, and then move from there. So
and it works on only on Windows, right?
I don't know. No, actually, no. There is an Edge for iOS as well, and there's an Edge for Android. I don't know which version they are based on and what's the engine behind of them, but there is a Edge browser for iOS as well.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to look for it.
You're clearly
I'm browsing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is it? What? So, okay. Anyway, so let's actually get to the few articles. Let's talk about Mikael's contributions and the search web part which we mentioned from Frank Cornu. Mikael has been active on that one, and then Yannick Reekman and Tarald Grasbach.
Yes.
So. Let's talk about all of this stuff. So let me share my screen. And move in here. Waldek is concentrating on finding more information around the Edge on iOS. But a few things to mention. So we're recording this on 3rd of May. So this is going live on 8th of May. And on the upcoming Saturday, when this goes live, there's actually quite a few SharePoint Saturdays, which is interesting. So there's Atlanta. Let me do this. And there's a Montreal. And it's actually Cologne. And then there's the Durban. How do I flip that to? There we go. Where's no, there it is, green. Now I have all the colors. Super important. Red is over there, Atlanta.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
So okay, I can do more red. What I want.
Now it's clear. Yes.
Okay. These are in no specific order, or the colors don't mean a thing in these arrows. No, but it's interesting to see there's 4 different SharePoint Saturdays coming up on the same time. So it's going to be pretty hectic weekend for SharePoint once again. Obviously, in a lot of the SharePoint Saturdays, people talk about other stuff as well, which is a good thing. I think that's one way of thinking this diversity as well from the product and services perspective. So not thinking this as SharePoint Saturdays and let's talk about only SharePoint. No. It's about the bigger ecosystem behind Office 365. Just out of curiosity, let's do a quick, super quick roundup. Atlanta speaker list. Just curious how we're seeing who's here. There's Matthew Bailey. There's a Daniel Christian. So Flow stuff. Flow and cognitive services. Jason Himmelsen, Todd Client. Todd has a pretty nice picture. A lot of familiar. It's a really good list of people. Christian Wheeler there as well. Christina. Clearly, Christina's heading. I think she was heading to Mexico for a weekend holiday right today. I saw that in Twitter.
Really important update.
Yes, yes, indeed. So Cologne, just out of curiosity. So let's see. There is no speakers yet.
Sid Matthews.
Sid Matthews, at least it's there. Good, and that's in progress. Probably going to be announced quite soon. Durban. And speaker list 3, Samuel, Jonan, and Michelle. Good. Okay, and then Montreal. I can pretty much guess who's in here. Speakers and Hugo. Hugo is an SPFX stuff, absolutely. A lot of familiar faces and names. Jonah Klein has been in the SB Dev Weekly.
No Benjamin, though.
No Benjamin, no Sebastian. So weird. Or maybe they're just not
because
here.
Because they're Ben wouldn't be at Build, but Sebastian might be.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
So that is 11. So it's the next week, right? After.
Yeah, it's the Saturday after Build. So and the Build ends on Wednesday. So they.
Oh yeah, fair enough. No excuse.
Anyway.
Then.
So there we go. Now, on the other discussion what we had, so Mikael joining on Microsoft, which is pretty cool. And this is the web part which we talked about. So originally from Frank Cornu, and then Mikael was active here. And then let me zoom in here. Yannick Reekman, and then Tarald has been active. Tarald created an extensibility model on top of this web part. This is a really cool web part. We did a 1 hour or the kind of a recording webcast as well. So where the guys are walking through what's available and how does it actually work.
And there's like PRs weekly, and they just work too much, these guys. So
yeah,
we're now actually thinking about starting to do monthly releases.
Yes.
So By the way, I recall we two of us had discussion about templating for this a while back.
Yep.
But now that the library components are available in SPFX, or at least in preview,
Yep.
Are you guys planning to swap them and to use that?
Yeah, we could probably use that instead of the extension hack we do for custom rendering right now.
Yes.
But I guess someone has to see the need for it, right? Without going outside a handlebar. So when someone has a need, they will do PR, I guess. So.
Yeah, fair enough.
Makes perfect sense. Now on Mikael's other Mikael stuff, so this one really great sample available on GitHub under the SP Dev Solutions. And if you're, by the way, wondering, SP Dev Solutions is basically slightly more polished samples. Officially, all of these are still samples in GitHub, but SP Dev Solutions are kind of a more polished, more professional samples.
Meant for production-ready stuff.
Basically. So it's like the web parts, solutions, and then the next step is product?
In this case, yes. So, well, we'll see what we will get natively in Microsoft Search. Now, which is still, by the way, in preview, isn't it? So we'll see when it's actually going to GA. Anyway, so this one is from you as well. So how to create modern web page templates and retrofitting old pages as templates. And this is really around the new page template functionality, which is gradually now getting rolled out to
being rolled out now in
preview.
May. Yeah. No, in GA. In GA actually.
Oh, in GA. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's 10% rolled out in GA so far.
Yeah, it's already in the dev tenants and targeted release tenants available, so you can actually see how it works. It actually does relate on the app pages. So if you have app pages, those will be here, and they will be called apps as a additional tab. But in this blog post, you concentrate on the page layouting and how it's actually being sent or being built.
Yes,
and anything do you want to explain?
Yeah, so basically what happens when you start doing in templates, you get a folder by default called templates, and then all the pages happen to go in there. So you could take existing pages or move ones you have into that, and they will show up as templates. So you can have ready-made templates for your users instead of having the 3 default ones.
And basically, feel free to explain what this one is all about.
Yeah. So this is me and Irvin did a quick reverse engineering yesterday. Like how is this actually being set up? And it's a property on the root folder of site pages pointing to the ID of the folder, which should be the template folder. And that sort of spun into Irvin and Bert implementing this in PnP Core and PowerShell yesterday.
That's how it works. But it's good to have that kind of a support available, and it's good to understand the underlying implementation. And this one, did you use any tooling to figure out the attribute, or how did you figure it out?
No, I think we just checked for properties, and I mean, we sort of know how SharePoint works, so we sort of checked different, like, is it in the property bag of the web, or just check different, well, here's the property, this seems to make sense, and yes, this made sense, right? Yeah,
exactly. In the old school way, we were using ILSpy or reflectors and whatever, and those tools in a server-side code, but now you can't do that anymore. So kind of investigating based on properties and values within the objects, how it might be working, unless we have actually documented that. So.
Yes.
Good article.
Which would be really helpful if once in a while you ship the assemblies or you release the assemblies that you use in 365. It would make life so much easier.
Well, wait, didn't we actually do that right about October last year, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, but there are no templates in there.
There's no templating in 2019, right?
True, that is true. That was 2019, because that's based on SharePoint Online, absolutely. Now, there was also an interesting discussion on Twitter this week with DC releasing. DC is one of his senior program manager in the feature PM, feature crew PM. So basically, in my sibling team, I'm from the dev platform, and he's from ownership team who's owning the modern pages and modern experiences, modern portals. And he's responsible on the upcoming multilingual support for modern SharePoint. And there is now a actual roadmap item available for that one. I think it's actually mentioned scheduled to be out on early next year, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what this actually says. But on the SBC conference, there will be a session with Julie Turner, and DC talking about multilingual support. So what Julie has done is that Julie actually built a extensibility-based multilingual support for SPFX, and they're going to talk about that one. And I think they're going to touch obviously what's coming in the future natively.
And that solution is also in the SPDev Solutions repo.
Correct.
Where the
That's actually a good point. Let me actually mention that as well, because if we go to the SPDev Solutions, we have here multilingual pages, and this is the solution from Julie Turner, which is then basically custom extensibility built using SPFX, which is then having multilingual support. So really cool stuff from Julie. And the roadmap item, multilingual page publishing for modern SharePoint, it really is calendar year 2020, first quarter. So I'm pretty far away still, unfortunately, but in the pipeline at least, and getting built or in development right now, which is really good.
Nice.
Good. Any comments on that one?
Well, I guess interesting will be to see how this will work with search, but I guess I might figure out.
Maybe you have to figure it out. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Also, there is probably a property in somewhere in property bag that.
That is true. You need to be careful, Mikael, in the future for asking those questions, because everything might land on your table. So, so how have you considered? No, I haven't. But what if you?
That's a good idea.
Exactly. That's how it works. Trust me, I know. And learn to say no. Learn to say no. Most really important thing.
I'm not a very big yes guy. So
yeah, I'm unfortunately quite a big yes guy rather than a no guy. So that ruins my life. Well, no, it doesn't. This one was interesting. Tip from Sergey around the fact that, hey, if you write the @yo at Microsoft /SharePoint, that's a pretty long thing. Can I actually do something faster? And he's basically explaining how to create a alias for running then this as a SB as the command line. This is almost like
users only.
Yeah. Solution of Windows user only. Don't be like that, Waldek. Always, come on.
I'm a lazy.
Don't be like that.
Yeah, I just type yo and then I just go through the menu option and click it.
That's one way of doing that. Yes.
And
I think
there is alternative for that for Bash.
Yeah. And I think it was actually SharePoint conference last year when we showed the F5 together with Irvin. That was based on the same thing. No, F5 because people wanted to have an F5 experience with SharePoint Framework development.
Oh, right,
so
right.
We wrote F5 on the console.
In project, yes.
Exactly. So there's your F5 experience. So
what? No.
Anyway, so this one was good from Pierre-Yves Bardy, continuous integration for SharePoint Framework project. We've been having quite a few of these, but it's good to have multiple articles so people are up to date on what's happening. And every single article has a slightly different perspective on these things as well. So you can find the right suitable for the real project. So this is around pipelines and builds and how to set up things. And let's see.
CLI, there you go.
CLI, your Office 365 CLI usage. So making things available and deployment available on the site. And I didn't double check. No, there's no end result on all of the configuration, but it's basically adding stuff on the tenant. So as a continuous way. So really important thing. This one in here is for the CLI, right?
And the reason for that is it's probably because it's based on the Mac OS based agent.
Yeah.
For SPFX.
Right.
Yeah. And more information around the CLI absolutely in the PMP docs. The docs for that one is in really good shape. Wonder who's actually responsible for that.
Community. We have a wonderful team.
Yeah. That is true. That is absolutely true. Now, the next one was from
Paolo, and Paolo
can provision functionality in the PMP provisioning. So this is something which is getting out in the May release of the PMP provisioning engine. And yes, I know that that's only for Windows, but it's maybe in future it's going to be somewhere else.
It runs in a cloud, right?
Yes. Well, nowadays it's heading to be more a service in the cloud as well, but that's a separate discussion. Maybe that we'll do that properly in sooner or later. But yeah, so the PnP provisioning engine will have a can provision capability, and can provision basically can be used to verify that the template which is planned to get provision, if it has prerequisites, is the tenant ready for it. So as an example, some of the templates might contain SPPKG files, so SharePoint Framework Solutions. So when you run can provision checking, it will check if the app catalog is existing and you have the sufficient permissions and all of that available. I think he actually has a summary slide. Here we go. That's a good list of things. So checking things and checking rules, and there will be more rule checking in the future as well. So basically based on always on the template which is planned to be applied. The real story why we needed to actually implement this was around the provisioning service, because we needed to do pre-checking when people are using the SharePoint provisioning service on deploying of the SharePoint lookbook sites to their tenants. So can we apply this tenant to the tenant or not? But good video, good explanation on what's happening. Then this is from Laura Cochrane in authenticating to Office 365 APIs with certificates step by step. Laura is really good on writing kind of a, let's say, not long blog post necessarily, but that's the length of the blog post isn't the key point. The key point being explaining things one step at a time throughout from the functionality perspective. So basically going through creating of the certificates, adding the certificate to Azure AD, configuring permissions, and then using that in a logic app flow in this case, or in app service. So really great blog post, one step at a time, explaining the things what people need to do to make things happen. So not just a snippet, rather a full story. So pretty good stuff.
So in other words, things that should have been in the docs.
Oh, things, yes. Wonder who's responsible of those SharePoint Dev docs.
Mikael.
I've written some docs at least. I mean, we even have a PnP commandlet to create an Azure certificate, which is easier than what Laura does in her post. I should have told her that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but that works only on Windows, so
that only so that's the code in this post.
Yes.
So, sure.
So how do you create a certificate on Linux? I have no idea.
There is a tool named OpenSSL.
Right. Of course.
AC has an article for that.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. And then the final article here from the at the European SharePoint conference. And this is from Tatvasoft. I didn't actually double check that. There's probably a person behind of that. Let's see if we can actually find it in the signature. But the whole point of this one is using Microsoft Graph with SharePoint Framework, a relatively new article as well. And sure, there's quite a few blog posts related on this, and this is quite nicely documented as well in the SharePoint Dev Docs. But it's always good to have updated stories and updated clarifications how things are actually working. This seems to be using the similar kind of thinking as what we have actually in the official docs and the sample as well. So there's two ways of doing Azure AD or the Graph API calls, and then one step at a time building the solution and making stuff happen. Let's see, we actually have a UI here as well, deployment, approving the permissions. And then the key point maybe for just to recap on this one, the big advantage of using SharePoint Framework for a graph operations. Well, first of all, you have a modern development experience. You're using the industry standard development topics, but then all of this simplicity of using graph, permission approvals and all of that is really nice. So you don't actually have to call your Azure administrators as long as there's a tenant administrator permission in the Office 365. And most likely there is a Office 365 tenant administrator in the company. So we're able to manage permissions in here. And there's the actual end result as well. So good stuff. There is unfortunately not a full name of a person who actually wrote this, which is a small pity. Tatvasoft.
Available ad. So there's original link on the right-hand side.
Let's actually pick this up so we can actually give credits from this one. So this one is from Tatvasoft.
That is the company and all the way down.
Let's see if we can actually find the person who has written this.
No author.
Unfortunately, no. Okay, no can do. So at least we tried. So that's good. Good. I think that's it. Let me stop presenting. There we go. And maybe on the European SharePoint conference, maybe I shouldn't be actually announcing anything on there before they announce
SharePoint conference. So you mean ECS or
No, the
ESPC?
SharePoint ESPC. Let's not talk about that one yet. Yes. There might be something which is getting announced at some point by those people, but let's not actually talk about that.
Somebody at some point will announce something.
Yes, that is absolutely. You heard it first in here. Yes. I think it was actually David Warner who said it. He quoted, "You heard it first from here," in Twitter. This one necessarily wasn't worth of a note, but hey.
But maybe there's another thing. So when you showed the article about the walkthrough for approving permissions for SPFX packages for APIs, I thought, like, why isn't there a way, right? So imagine that you have an SVP PKG that you want to deploy a site collection app catalog.
Yep.
And that has isolated web part that requires access to graph.
Yep.
Why shouldn't site collection admin be able to approve it? Because that is isolated to this web part in that particular site.
And it's only for that web part, but still it would mean that the site collection administrator, not a tenant administrator, would be able to grant access, for example, confidential information in your profile.
Yeah.
Or the user's profile. So they can
but
in that isolated site. But then they can send a link to the CEO of the company, and then that's it. So it would be not a centralized controlled operation, right?
Well,
it's only in that site collection, but there is always a concern.
But you have the same concern. Well, sure. So from that point of view, yes, but
you are from the security company. You should know this. No, you're not.
Yeah, but I mean, you already give in on that when you allow decentralized deployment of applications. When you choose to have a site collection level
sure. I absolutely agree on that. So yes, you lose some level of a control, but then fair point. Then there's the additional level of control still to graph APIs, and your statement does make sense. Is it worthwhile of actually having that as a separate approval? But then if we would keep it as a site collection thing, we would have to implement site collection level approval UIs, which would be then complex or additional workflows.
Start with PowerShell.
I guess it's sort of the same as with the old App Store, right? I mean, you could add an app from the store, and then you would have to have an admin to approve you to actually add it to your site collection afterwards, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So,
yeah, sort of it's like you choose to have the decentralized model where when tenant admin would delegate approval of applications to site collection admins, but then for these one you still have to revert back.
Sure, makes sense. Maybe we should have that
a Twitter poll.
No. Let's not have that discussion either.
If somebody thinks that would be valuable addition, please create a user voice entry and vote.
All right. That is the right thing to do because those user voice entries, and the votes on them, they do actually matter, and we're following up on those absolutely. But cool, I think that's it for this one. So thank you, Mikael, for ad hoc joining on this one. We seriously agreed.
It was planned.
It was planned from October. Yes. And thank you for making this the world exclusive announcement. What you're going to do in the
You heard it here first. Again.
You heard it here first. Yes. But congratulations on joining the company. I think it's a great decision. We've been having a long debate on your discussion on this one at some point, but it's great to have you in the company as well. And I think it's a highly beneficial thing for the community, for MVPs moving to the Microsoft as well, because then that means that in these positions where people move, like Dan Holm is a good example, there's now knowledge, more hands-on knowledge how the community works, and then we can actually improve this relationship between Microsoft and community. So I've been already in 13 years in Microsoft, so I'm kind of a lost soul, right? Yeah. So getting new people on the company with a fresh mindset is a good thing.
Well, I guess I have some ideas. The question is, will I be able to do some of those ideas, right?
You are in
one
control.
Step at a time.
Yeah. You are in control.
Yeah. And to be honest, on that point, we have 2 minutes or so, but I didn't have those opportunities to implement my way of thinking when I joined the company. But then, one step at a time, I got to the position where I can actually then start impacting and making my own decisions. So, sure, from day one, maybe that won't be the option, but maybe day 2 or day 10 or day 356 or whatever. So I think the number one thing is keep on improving. And like we always use, this is a bad joke, why am I saying this out loud in the SharePoint Dev Weekly, but we use the ENCO-OTP method, ENCO-OTP method in the PMP, which is step-by-step. ENCO-OTP meaning new kids on the block. And yes, we're old, but anyway.
So only the old kids know about the
new kids on the block. That's actually true. And on that bombshell,
good night.
I think that's good. See you in a week, everybody. Thank you for joining and watching the video. Cheers.
Bye.